Hi everybody, thanks for joining me on today's Build With Me video. In today's scenario, we're going to look at a split level kind of two-story house that has a side entry garage, and we're going to incorporate some victims into the initial 360 as you're going around and doing the size up on the building. And we're also going to build this scenario using the iPad. So again, I like to switch up. Sometimes I use the iPad, sometimes I'm on the computer desktop, but either one is a great experience. So let's go ahead and jump in. So we're going to start by opening the SimViewShare app, and we're going to click on New Scenario, and then we'll go ahead and give it a name. I'm just going to call this one Victim. And remember, before we bring in any photos, we want to click on the Set Compression, and we want to change it to No Compression. And I got to that by clicking the hamburger menu in the top of the screen. And once we do that for the first photo, it's going to remain zero compression for the rest of the scenario. So you only have to do that one time. We're going to start by going to our photo roll. And I have a separate album set up for this. And you can see here are my 4 files. So I have an A side, and then the B side is the third photo here where the garage is. And then the C side is kind of the back there that you can see. And then the D side is the middle photo on the top. So we're just going to have a standard 360 with some victims. So we'll start here on the A side. So I'm going to grab the A side photo. Okay, and once we bring that in, it actually looks pretty good where it is. I don't think I need to crop or move anything. So we're just going to leave that one there, and we'll go ahead and go to our B side. So we're going to go New Location. And we're just going to name this one Side B. And I don't need to bring any assets from the other location, so we'll just set the background from our camera roll again. And we're going to choose the B side, which is the garage side. And again, in this scenario, I'm not going to worry about adding any assets yet or cropping anything. I'm actually going to leave it all where it is, and we can always go back and edit it. So we'll just go to our third side. And then we'll go to our D side. All right, so that's going to give us our A, B, C, and D. I also like to go into the initial location here, and then I'm just going to rename that location. That way it'll be consistent with the other one, so we'll just make it side A. All right, so now in our navigation here, we have A, B, C, and D. So I think I'm going to start here with some fire through the side A part of the house. And in this case, I think I'm just going to do some fire through either the large picture window or the smaller windows to the right of the door. I think let's try the picture window just to see how we can get that to look. So we're going to start here with utility, and we want to put a shape there because we know that that's going to be, we want to be able to cover that window to an extent. So when I start here, I just get this. I'm just worried about the height right now as I use scale here. That's pretty good. Now I want to go to transform and then narrow and widen, and that'll allow me to spread that out to get it to the exact size that I need. There we go. That's pretty good. And then I'll change the opacity a little bit on that, bring it down so we can see a little bit of the window. And you can see here, we've done this in previous scenarios where we're just blacking that out so it doesn't look like glass. We want to leave a little opacity to where we can kind of see that it looks like a broken window that we're looking through. And then I'm actually going to scale just a hair here. This is 37. I'm actually just going to change it to 40. And then move that around. That looks pretty good there. All right, so let's go ahead and grab some fire. And so we can look at the different fire here that's available. And we might try a couple different things just to see what we can get to look good. I like the ceiling fire sometimes here. So we'll scale that down and see how we can make that look. That's a little fast. So we bring that down. That looks pretty good there. I think if we just kind of move that around, we'll take a look. Okay, that's pretty good. And I think I want to also go, and we'll get some smoke there. And here we can use the front view. The laminar is always good for that. And then the pushing smoke is pretty good too, the turbulent. So we can put that there, but we normally need to widen that out quite a bit. So we're going to scale it to get the height that we want. Then we're going to bring that speed down again to match that fire. And now I'm going to do my transform, narrow, widen so that I can make it wider, but keep the bottom relatively the same. Okay, and then we're going to grab that and move it backwards. Take a look at that. I think in this case, I'm going to go ahead and move that fire to the back. And then I'm going to grab my smoke and go a little more opaque. All right, that's getting better. Now, sometimes what I like to do is just grab another flame and just kind of throw it in there in the front. And again, that's pretty fast, so we'll want to bring it way down. Okay, and then I'm going to grab that and move it back also. Take a look. That just kind of brightens up that fire a little bit, kind of puts it in behind so we can see that it's there. That's pretty good, so we'll just leave that. We want to have the illusion that we have a lot of fire in the house, fairly significant, that would charge the house up and possibly cause an issue with our victims. So now let's go around to the B side. All right, and I think this is where I want to have my victim. So we want to basically have a window here with the victim, and we want to have a lot of smoke and fire maybe coming out of those a couple of windows here in the back. So again, we're going to start with being able to cover that window up with a shape. Again, we scale to get to the height that we're looking for. And I think that looks pretty good. Straighten it a little. That one's actually pretty good just the way it is. So then what I want to do there is I'll go ahead and copy that effect. And then I'll paste it so I can just use it again on that next window. Okay, and we're just going to do those two windows. Maybe the victim tried to open those two to be able to get out. We'll change our opacity again, just like we did on the front door. So something maybe like that looks pretty good. I want to get rid of most of those lines from that area of the window. Just kind of obscuring them a little bit. There we go. All right, now in this case, we're just mainly looking for smoke. So we're going to find something that looks pretty good. Laminar isn't too bad here. It usually works pretty well. So what I want to do is scale it down a little bit. And then I'm going to narrow and narrow and widen so that I can widen it out. And then last, we want to change the color. So we'll darken that up. That's pretty good. And I actually, now that I see the color like that, I want to go ahead and narrow it back up. I think I made it a little too wide. So we'll kind of narrow that. And the last thing I want to do here is just kind of bring it down. Get it centered a little bit in the window. All right, that looks pretty good. And so then I'll go ahead and copy that and we'll paste it. And we can bring the second one over here. And then that second one, I do want to make it a little different so they're not so obvious. So I'm going to transform, narrow and widen. I'm going to widen that one out a little and kind of move it over. Okay, and that's going to be pretty good there. Now, one issue with this building is kind of difficult because of the way that this tree is on the right-hand side by the chimney. It's difficult to show your side A smoke, which, again, that's just sometimes we're just forced to do things like that. We won't be able to really mask that and get that smoke in there where we want it. Sometimes, we're able to kind of do it. So we might play with this for a second and see if we can kind of fake getting a little bit of smoke and fire in there and maybe mask out part of that chimney. So let's try that. And I'm actually going to go back to the side A. And from here, I'm going to go ahead and copy this smoke. So I'm just going to copy that. And then I'm going to go back to side B. And then here we're going to paste that in. That'll just give me a general idea of what I did over there on the front. So I kind of put it like that. And we might be able to mask out this chimney enough to get the right effect. First of all, we're going to reset that and slow it down. All right, let's try throwing a quick mask on here. So we'll go Utility Mask. We'll bring that over and just put it here. I'm going to hide other elements. And I'm going to do Mask Boundary. And we'll see what we can do to just sort of mask out part of this. And then I'm also going to add a few more points here. Maybe like that. And we're going to do Which to Mask. And we'll choose the Turbulent Smoke. And we'll just give it a look and see if we're close. Okay, that's actually not too terrible. You can see there we have a little bit of the trees on top of the mask on the chimney. So what I'll probably do is just cut that off, just make it shorter. And then I'm going to straighten up the back of the chimney a little bit. And I'm also going to try to drop the mask down a little under the overhang of the front of the house to kind of make all that stuff a little more realistic. So again, we're going to grab our mask and hide the other elements. So maybe I want to drop this down to about here. And then I'm going to do Mask Boundary again, and I can straighten this one. And then here, we're going to come over. And then we want a little bit of that kind of still showing. So we'll take a look and see if that changed it. Okay, so that's not too bad. That kind of gives us a little bit of smoke above the roof. We kind of fixed the chimney. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I mean, again, that's not really the focus of this. And so that's something to keep in mind, though, when you do take your photos. The trees that are in the photo are definitely sometimes going to cause you an issue depending on what you're trying to mask out. And again, I could spend a little more time on this, making it a little cleaner as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get back. And now we're going to look at putting our victim in. Now we have a couple different options for the victim. I personally like to have the victim in the scenario and already at the window when they start the scenario. And as they do their 360, they find it. So we'll start with how you would do that, and then we'll go back and talk about timing and things like that. So in this case, I'm just going to grab New Element, and I'm going to go to People. And then I have all these choices of the type of person I want to have at the window. And I think in my case, I'm going to use the woman victim here. And by default, you'll see that she's in a prone position. So you just highlight the victim, choose your pencil tool, and then choose posture. And then we get the drop down menu here, and these are all the different types of posture that we can put the victim in. So of course we're going to do at window. And so that puts her into the at window position. And then we're going to go ahead and move her over and scale down. And again, you can narrow and widen. You can use all those same tools that we talked about. And I usually just try to look at the size of the window. You know, this person's probably going to cover up a little less than half of the window. And then we can go ahead and move her right where we want. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. Now, another thing, we'll take a look at that. See how we got. Okay, I can see I want to move the smoke down a little bit. And see how she's kind of bright for the photo? We want to change the brightness a little bit to make that more realistic. So I'll use my selection rotator and grab the smoke that I want. And I'm just going to bring it a little bit further down behind her. Like that. And then I'm going to grab my victim. And we're going to go ahead and change the brightness on her. And you can see I can kind of darken her up a little bit and make it match the color scheme of the photo a little bit better. And then within that, we also have a blur. So sometimes if your victim is really sharp, it makes sense to go ahead and blur the victim out a little bit, especially if there's some smoke. You can see there it gets blurry. And I usually just blur like 1 or 2 points is usually enough. A couple of the other things you can transform like we talked about, make the victim wider, taller, skinnier, or change them around. And we're going to talk about the delay here in just a minute. Under tap control, you can see we have clear on tap, and we can just say yes or no to that. We have tap target scale, which means the area that where the victim is, this is the region I can tap on. And I usually don't like to have this really tiny like this unless I have multiple victims right next to each other. So in this case, I just have one. So I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so it's easier for me to tap. Because what's going to happen is the instructor, when I tap on this victim on the screen, the victim will disappear once the crew does the rescue. So now we're going to grab that again and go into tap control. And we have some options. Do we want the victim visible to start? And for now, I'm going to leave that, but I'll show you in just a minute how we can change that. So let's play this and see how it looks. Okay, so there's my victim. They come around to the B side. They see the victim. Once they say that they're going to do the rescue, then whether I'm in the CTC or whether I'm here, I can just come in and grab that victim and click on. And now the victim's gone for the remainder of the scenario. Now, another thing you'll see, I can double click and the victim can come back. So that gives us the option to start with the victim visible or not visible. So in the first scenario, we started with the victim visible. Now let's go ahead and change that. And under visible to start, we'll say no. And now we'll play. And you can see the victim's gone. And at any point, if I just double click, now the victim becomes visible. So you can set whether they're visible to start or not within the settings. Now, the other thing you might want to do is have your victim appear after a period of time. Now, again, personally, I don't usually do this. I like to have manual control over the victims, but you can do that if you want the victim to come up, like I said, at a certain specific time. So here we go again. We'll go ahead and just select our victim and we'll choose delay time. Well, first let's go to tap control and we'll say visible to start is yes. So the victim will be there. Now we're going to go into delay timing and we can do fade in and fade out of the victim. Now I know some people have done scenarios where if the crew doesn't get the victim in a certain period of time, then they fade out and they're gone, meaning that they maybe ran back into the building to try to escape themselves. So that's something you might want to consider as well. So here we have when timing begins. So our timer can start when the crew gets to this side of the building and sees the victim, which would be location, or we can do it based on the state, or we can do it based on scenario time or total scenario time. So in this case, we're going to say start when the scenario starts. And we're going to go to, again, delay timing. And the fade in settings, we're going to have them fade in. And we'll just do 10 seconds here. Actually, let's just do 5 for the purpose of the video. Close enough. And fade in duration is how fast do you want them to fade in? Do you want it to be a slow fade in, or do you just want them to appear? I usually leave that at 0. That way the victim just pops up. Okay, so we'll hit done here. Okay, so now let's say we play our scenario. Now for the first 5 seconds, we should not see the victim. And when we get to 5 seconds, then there she is. And again, we can still get rid of the victim just by clicking at any point or click to bring the victim back. But our initial fade in happened at that period of time. So now let's do, again, we'll grab our victim and we'll do delay timing. And we have the fade in settings, but now our fade out, once we click that, let's say we started her at 5. I want her to fade out at 10. And I want it to be immediate. Okay, so now let's take a look at how that scenario looks. So at 5 seconds, we should see our victim. And at 10 seconds, she should go away. And there you go. So you have a lot of control over your victims, whether you're using the keyboard cluster or whether you're using the CTC. And you can see that it's easy to set the scenario to whatever you're looking for with regard to the scene. So let's go ahead and finish this scenario out. We'll go to the Charlie side. And from here, we can add whatever smoke or fire we want. So in this case, I would add that same smoke from the A side. So we're going to grab side, we'll go to side A real quick, grab that smoke and copy it. And then we're going to go back to the Charlie side. And from here, we'll need to throw a quick mask on to mask the top of the house. So we'll do utility mask. And we're going to bring that up here. And we're just going to kind of get the corner set. And then I like to do mask boundaries. Drop that in. And we'll add another point or two here. All right, and then we'll go ahead and paste in our smoke from the other side. And then we do need to choose our mask, which item we want to mask. I'll need to use my selection rotator. And we'll see how we got that. Okay, that's not bad. It looks like we just need to slow that smoke down. All right, and that looks pretty good. And that'll cover that side. Now, if we'd like to, we can also throw in some of the smoke from the garage side there, where the victim is. So I can just grab one of these and copy it, and then we'll go back and we'll just throw that in as well. And again, you can make these as detailed or as basic as you want. And I can see here that I'm going to need another mask because I do want to mask off that part of the roof. So utility mask. We'll just bring that over. Let's try that. We need to paste our smoke in first. We're just going to kind of put that in this area here. And then we can grab our mask again. And we'll mask off that laminar smoke and give it a look. Okay, that's pretty good. We could go ahead and work that mask around the corner and then move the smoke to the right a little bit if we wanted to. And I'll just show you that, and you'll see that now it's going to kind of stick over there. And again, it just depends on how detailed you want to get with your different elements here. We grab this mask, and now we take a look. We can get that right where we want it. And if we wanted to try to get that smoke sort of to where you can see it there, we'll add a few extra points. You do something like that. And just, we'll see how close we got it. A little better. Looks like the mask just needs to drop down a hair. Come down like that. There we go. And now we're getting that little bit of smoke there over the corner. It makes it a little more realistic. Now, the last thing I would do here, we do have a lot of smoke and fire. So you guys know I like to do a little bit of smoke just to give the idea or the general idea that there's smoke in the area. You can use laminar or the gas approach smoke, either one. And this one we'll try some laminar smoke. And we're just going to scale this up to kind of blow everything out. And we can kind of set it up to how light we want it. Maybe I still want to be able to see a lot of that. So the more I drop that down, the lighter it gets. Then we're going to change the color a little bit just to give it a little bit of gray. Not too bad. We'll change the color, or excuse me, we'll change the speed. And then we're going to lastly just change the opacity to kind of just give us that general idea of sort of some smoke just in the area, you know, as we're standing out here in the yard. Maybe we're in command back here, or whatever we might be doing. We still have that general smoke in the area, not just the smoke that's right there in front of the wall. All right, so that's it. And then you may want to grab this smoke. This is kind of a nice thing to do. Copy it, and now you can apply that to all the sides of the building. So side D isn't really going to have anything going on back here because we can't really see anything. So we will go ahead and just paste in that effect. There you go. And then you can see that just gives us that overall haze in that area on our 360. We'll go back to side A and do the same thing. Again, very bright here, but now we're going to drop that in. And there you go. Now when we take a look at that, we get that overall haze that we have from the fire. And then lastly, we'll just do that on the B side as well. Paste that in. All right, so there's our overall look on the B side. The victim will appear. And you can see that does obscure the victim a little, makes it a little more realistic to try to find her. All right, so the last thing we're going to do in this scenario is add our navigation. And so just like we've done in previous scenarios, we're going to click on the navigation menu and we're going to choose Walk Around Maker. Now from here, we can choose one at a time the sides that we want to have included in our walk around. So for our case, we're just going to have all four, A, B, C, and D side. We're going to go right to left and we're just going to choose Make Loop. And now you'll see when we play, we have our navigation cluster here that we can use to move around the scenario. And again, if you're going to use the CTC to run the scenario, you can choose to have the navigation available to the people playing, or you can control it as the instructor. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video. And please, if you did, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate that. If you have any questions, you can definitely put a comment below and we'll get back to you. And if you'd like to use this simulation at your department, you can download the simulation at the link in the description. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.